Hello and welcome to the Metal Pack Pod, the industry's leading podcast for the global metal packaging market. The Metal Pack Pod is brought to you by the Metal Packager, the number one digital resource for the global metal packaging business. The Metal Pack Pod is brought to you in association with PPG Packaging Coatings, a global leader in innovative, safe and reliable coatings. Its range of innovative and sustainable solutions help protect and beautify the world. Our podcast was recently voted in the top 10 packaging podcasts globally, so be sure to like our podcast and receive regular updates when the latest episode drops. Today's episode, we welcome Jag Bains, Vice President of Commercial at Europe, Middle East and Africa at Ball Corporation. During this episode, we discuss Ball's Dynamark technology for its beverage cans. This new technology has been upgraded and introduces an advanced tier of printing capabilities, unlocking leading-edge features to deliver greater flexibility and enhance value for brands. We also chat about some pertinent topics creating the headlines at the moment and how Jag's experience in other sectors is transferable into the can-making business. We hope you enjoy the episode. Hi Jag, lovely to see you. Looking forward to an interesting discussion about the latest developments at Ball. It seems like you guys are very busy, not least with Dynamark seems to be cutting some waves within the industry. So looking forward to an interesting conversation. So how's things with you?
Great, good Alex. Thank you for having us on. I'm really looking forward to the next few moments with you, and let's get you up to date.
Excellent stuff. So, with my guests, I'd like to just take one step back, really, and just find a little bit more about yourself. So, just your kind of heritage within the sector. So, if you can just provide our audience just a little bit of background behind yourself, that would be a great place to start.
So, I joined Ball back in 2019. I had no vision, I guess, of joining a packaging company in my career. My career was 22 odd years in FMCG, CPG, so pretty much doing what our customers do. And I was approached by Ball because they were actually looking for somebody to come from that industry into packaging. And I'd never considered it, but I have to admit, after a few meetings with Ball, it was really, really interesting. So I started off by looking after the UK and Ireland, and then went on to looking after EMEA, and now I'm in my role as Commercial VP, managing the overall EMEA and customer side of things.
That's excellent stuff. And I suppose joining in 2019 must have been a bit of a culture shock. I mean, personally, myself, we got married in 2019, and then literally about 3 months later, the whole world shut down. So I can imagine in the kind of the business sphere, it must have been a case of wow, what on earth is going on here? It must have been a bit of a shock there.
Yeah, and I think across all our customer bases and packaging, there's kind of like a pre-COVID period, a COVID period, and a post-COVID period. So I think that's etched in the books of all companies now. But I joined in 2019, and I think that was my year of understanding the packaging world. And then 2020, it just it went a bit crazy. So I had to sort of shift myself into fifth gear pretty quickly.
Absolutely. I think that's just the way everyone's speaking in the world now, isn't it? Kind of pre-COVID and post-COVID, those terminologies. Absolutely right. But just interesting to hear what you said there about obviously joining the packaging sector in 2019. And I'm guessing now, after you've been in the sector now for a few years, kind of what does packaging mean to you? Is there any kind of is it an emotive thing, or is it kind of obviously from a business point of view? Is it getting to make sure the product is right? It's just curious from an expert such as yourself, what kind of ticks the boxes in terms of what packaging should do for consumers?
I think my main reason for moving into the sector was the sustainability side. I really like the simplicity of aluminium, the fact that, it gets recycled, it's one material, it's easy to understand. And I never really thought of it like that. And then the more and more I've got into this industry, the more important we are. So when I was I worked for Cadbury and Premier Foods, we had products, but I never thought about the packaging as much. It was a given. And I think having worked in the packaging industry, we kind of like the first moment of truth, like the skin of the brand. We represent the brand. So I've really got into it, and it's such a diverse area. There is so much beverage and liquid development. It's very exciting. And I must admit, when I first left FMCG, CPG, known as being, very sort of above the line and below the line and advertising, and then moving into a packaging industry. So stepping one step behind the supply chain side. A lot of my colleagues didn't think that, you won't last in packaging. You're an FMCG person through and through. But I really, really enjoy it, Alex. It's just so many challenges, but there's so many opportunities, and we are the first thing that consumers see.
Absolutely, and I think as well that we're in such a volatile state of play, aren't we, at the moment? Where during the kind of if we circle into the metal packaging sphere, we saw a period of intense growth in the last few years, and the last 18 months. I know our customers and the industry as a whole has had a bit of a downturn. So I'm kind of a bit interested to see how the state of play is at Ball. So we'll get onto that in a moment. But just you mentioned about obviously the sustainability is something that's really driven your interest. I'm just curious. At the moment, I mean, there's a school of thought that sustainability for consumers is important until it comes down to price, and that at the moment we've seen, obviously due to inflationary pressures and brand owners seeing as a once in a generation opportunity to increase prices and essentially get away with it. Has that meant that sustainability is taking a back seat with consumers, or do you think that sustainability is still very much important, and for packaging companies it's still one of the kind of the key themes that should be front and center of all messages?
I think so. I think within the sort of consumer drivers, it's still a key driver. How we operate, what we do, what legacy we leave is really, really important. And I think consumers try and do as much as they can in their own lives, whether that's a choice of substrate. I think when you link it to inflation, I think what we see is, especially on the beverage side, that actually plays out really well during COVID, but post-COVID and any time when inflation is beginning to pinch the disposable income, you actually start to get consumers probably having more of a experience in the home. And that's where the beverage can actually really works, because it has this ability to stretch across so many different types of shopper occasions. So consumers, when faced in inflationary situations, may opt to buy more what we would say take home versus drinking in restaurants and bars, etc. So actually the can does support that occasion, and equally it can work on the other side in terms of premiumization and on-site as well. So I think it has a huge role from a sustainability perspective. It's really growing. We're seeing some substrate shift where we're seeing the can becoming more popular. But equally, from the statistics we've seen in terms of growth over the last 8 years, the can continues to grow and grow in penetration. So I think consumers are understanding it and are getting there, and we're absolutely doing as much as we can to put the message out there about the ability to recycle again and again. And inflation, I think, the can it sits in a perfect place where it can reach out to both sides.
That's great. I mean, in terms of sustainability, have we reached that peak yet for the industry, or do you think there's still more to go in that kind of interest for the industry? Because, us as kind of metal packaging professionals, we're always banging the drum in terms of the circular economy and the benefits of metal packaging. But do you think consumers have kind of got that message now? And do you think there's still some work to be done? And as a result, there's more opportunities for companies such as yourself to kind of utilize that potential growth?
Definitely. I think there's more to be done, but the penetration of cans have grown from around 10% up to about 14%. And in some of the individual categories, it's really shot up. Within CSD, which is carbonated soft drinks, we've jumped from a position of below 20 to above 20. In beer, we're growing, and in energy, we're growing as well. I think the biggest testament, Alex, is the fact that there is so many beverage launches in the last few years, and the majority of those launches are launching into cans. And that's because of its versatility, lightweight, transportation, and actually you can recycle it. It's easy to recycle. We have great recycling facilities here in the UK and abroad. It's easy to understand. So I think there is a bit more of a runway there for us to go at.
We interrupt this episode for a brief segment from our sponsors, PPG.
packaging coatings from PPG draw on our company's 140-year history of innovation. We never stop improving our solutions to meet the evolving needs of can makers and the marketplace. That spirit of innovation results in technology like the cradle-to-cradle platinum-rated PPG Innovel Pro. PPG Innovel Pro is the latest enhancement to the world's #1 non-BPA beverage can coating. It still doesn't use any bisphenol ingredients, but experienced can makers report that it now sprays like an epoxy. Follow PPG Packaging Coatings on LinkedIn or visit packagingcoatings.com to learn more about why PPG is the coatings partner for can making excellence.
That's great. You mentioned some trends. I mean, are there any that you can share with us that are perhaps a little bit out of the ordinary that you're seeing at Bull in terms of potential growth? I know we're seeing certainly the younger generation, kind of Gen Zs, not drinking as much alcohol now, and the kind of the non-alcoholic market seems to be cutting through pretty strongly. But are there any other kind of interesting trends that perhaps are a little bit unexpected for us?
No, I think you're on the ball, Alex, if I may say.
Pardon the pun, of course. Yeah, that's it.
With the liquid development, I think the non-alcoholic is an interesting one, and the growth of that area, and that is generational. I mean, I've got a son who doesn't drink very much, so I think that's definitely one. I think just water, flavored water, healthier drinks. I think what consumers are looking for is a benefit. There's a huge amount on gut health at the moment that's out there. We've noticed quite a bit of dairy. Obviously, you've seen quite a few of the major retail brands go into drink types. And then, of course, we've got a whole new layer of social media and influencers who are keen to launch their drinks as well. So it's a real hot pot, and it's great for the beverage industry. And premiumization is probably the other one, Alex, which also probably links a little bit back into your question on inflation. We're seeing a lot of brands premiumizing their products, and we're seeing a lot of that in the beer category at the moment.
Absolutely. You only have to see in the wearable tech market and the kind of the influencers there, where the whole health and wellness sector seems to be a runaway juggernaut, really, which is really interesting, and cut through with younger generation of consumers not looking to perhaps make the same mistakes that their parents did with alcohol and misuse of their body. That perhaps that's where the growth is. But I think in a roundabout way, coming back to what we were saying before, is I think the fact that the certainly in beverage, there's always so many different trends, and it's so fast moving that I suppose from yourself, that's why it's such an interesting place to be. That you never quite know where this segment is going to take us.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a real privilege to be able to work with so many different customers. And also for my colleagues in PHC, which is our personal home care division, where we have obviously lots of different products for personal care. There's a huge amount of development in that area as well. So I think there's a huge amount going out there. There's some great brands, there's some new brands, there's some existing brands, some great extensions. And what's really good is how they're then representing those brands on fixture with what they do with the can.
That's great. And if we can just circle this back to Bull, I mean, I was talking earlier about sort of the industry, certainly during COVID and the aftermath there, that there was significant growth, and the industry was struggling to keep up with demand, and that obviously all good things come to an end eventually. And certainly in the last 18 months, the industry has slowed. I'm just kind of curious about Bull's situation, and where do you see the state of play in the overall can making business? And I know customers of ours are saying there's some green shoots of recovery for 25 into 26. It's looking quite optimistic. So I just wanted your take on things and where Bull sees the industry currently.
So I think post-COVID, if we sort of take the period of 2023 and let's project out to 2028, we're looking to sort of see around 2.4% growth. So that continues from where we were pre-COVID. If anything, you've probably brought on more shoppers to some extent, because during COVID, QSR, food service outlets were all closed and pubs, etc. Consumers were drinking more in home, which led to a lot of multi-packs. Multi-packs for some brands that did not have multi-packs before, so they were single units. So there was a huge shift in terms of how consumers were drinking at home. And I think we continue to see that at Ball. We continue to see beverage growth within the EMEA region at about 2 percentage points over the next few years. And at Ball, we've obviously had 2 greenfield sites that we've put into Pilsen and Kettering, which is as a result of responding to some of that growth. So we have followed our customers, we're supporting our customers, and we're ensuring that we've got the availability of cans, which they need, they 100% need to get their cans on fixtures, and we need to be able to supply that. So we continue to grow with the market. We follow it very, very closely. And, you get ups and downs. We've had some not so great weather this year in some regions, etc. But, you work with customers and you're growing. But overall, I would say, Alex, it's growing at the moment.
That's interesting. I just want to pick up on 2 things you said there. So you obviously said in EMEA 2-3% growth. So that kind of is reflected in the traditional growth of this industry is always seen to be growing kind of 3% year on year. So slow and steady growth, which I suppose the volatility we've seen during the past kind of 5 to 10 years, that must be a good thing that we're seeing that steady growth again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, interesting, this year's been an interesting year. There's been a huge amount of launches across different regions. So I'm really looking forward to how this year finishes up, because it might be a bit slightly higher number. But certainly from what I'm seeing in the market with the different sizes. So, pre me coming into the industry, there was limited sizes, there were limited finishes, and now there's just so much, it's endless possibilities in terms of what you can do with cans. So I think, as being one of the can suppliers in the industry, it's our role to make sure that we continue to promote that. But we have to deliver what our customers want and ultimately what consumers want, and we have to remain relevant. So I think that's really key, Alex, is making sure we're staying ahead of that.
Yeah, that's great. And also curious about, you mentioned the weather, and I've done a lot of these podcasts and been in the industry for a long time, and no one's actually, and when I was thinking, when you were talking just now, I thought actually that's a really interesting point that no one's kind of ever mentioned. So yeah, can you just kind of go into that in a little bit more detail? I'm guessing kind of, are you talking about whether and that influences consumer habits, or are you talking more about the kind of more the start of the chain? I'm kind of curious about, what the impact on weather has to kind of overall growth for any industry, particularly obviously the can making business.
So I think in most industries where you've got food and drink, weather will play a role. What consumers end up doing sometimes dictated and what's happening on the day. So I think there's twofold. There's one where you'd come from major macro trends and changes in the weather, which we see, which is from climate change, which I guess also then rings back to customers and consumers regarding there is some major changes in in the way our climate behaves. So that leads to the whole sustainability and thinking about what we're doing on this planet and how we're behaving. That's one side. I think within the actual ebbs and flows of the year, there's changes in terms of weather patterns, which affects how consumers might buy goods. So there's a phasing element that comes in. So some of the things that we've had happen in Central Europe and in Spain, etc., impact what might happen with consumers. So there's always that element of volatility in any industry. It's not limited to the beverage industry, where you have to follow with what's happening with consumer sentiments. And we've not been short, certainly in the last to 6 years, of things happening, whether it's weather, whether it's other acts of God, whether it's politics, whether it's economics, whether it's war. I think in any industry, you have to make sure that you understand and plan effectively.
Absolutely, and we're just going back to that kind of volatile state of play, aren't we, really? And hopefully things settle down, although I'm not sure the political situation globally, that's probably a discussion for a different type of podcast, really. But it just shows you that we absolutely. But it just shows you.
Alex.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, hopefully we can have a quiet period, next 2 or 3 years of quiet, steady growth of 3% with no kind of external matters. That's the dream, right? But I'm sure there'll be some other issues to be faced. But at least for us, it's never boring anyway. So, moving swiftly on, I'm quite curious. Obviously, with some new technology at play, I think will be interesting for our audience. So if you can just so Dynamark Starter, if I'm correct, then Advanced Pro, it'd be great to just learn a little bit more about the technology and the potential there.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, I sort of see what we do as a skin of any brand that we work with. And the way the can performs on fixture or how it's seen is really, really important. 80% of consumer decisions are made usually on fixture or in fixture in store, and then there's another statistic around 70% lead to conversion. So we have to make sure that when our cans are on fixture, that they are representing the brand, they are engaging, they're inspiring. And in response to that, we've launched Dynamark Advanced Pro. So if I just give you a very quick lesson, we have Dynamark already in the marketplace. We have a Dynamark Starter. We have a Starter Pro, and then now we have an Advanced Pro. And what they're really doing is offering different solutions to customers. So in effect, Dynamark basically means you get multiple designs in the same case of products. So when you put that case of products on fixture in store, you get multiple different designs for that brand, which is really great because the brand is able to sort of multiply the messaging it's trying to give. It can build equity, it can get consumers to engage. It usually leads to people wanting to collect the cans because they want all 12 or the whole set of them because they're all different. And some of the great, I mean, we've done executions with over 50 customers, 80 brands, and worked over 100 projects on Dynamark already. The Advanced Pro enables you to change even more things on the can. So there'll be different elements you can change on the can through the Advanced Pro, whereas previously you can probably update 2 or 3 things. You can now actually go into updating more facets within the can. So it gives a really strong consumer message and great for the brands in terms of whatever activity they're trying to deliver.
That's great. So we're essentially circling back to that kind of personalization that seems to be so important, and also from a marketeer's point of view, it's ideal that you can change the message, and it means there's lots of different things to talk about as a result. So no, it seems really exciting. Is there any particular case studies from a particular customer that you can share with us?
So I think Dynamark in sort of our Dynamark Starter and Pro, we have done activations usually around events, so Olympics, football, names. There's been all sorts of iterations. There's been cities, there's been places of interest, because you can make 12 different images. You can imagine they work perfectly for football teams and things like that. So they have actually been widely used on a huge amount of activities. But the possibilities on that are endless in terms of what you can do, and I think it's a real it's a real bit of excitement on the fixture. Rather than having your standard brand, you actually do something different. And I think I recall one of our customers even did something for a charity where they featured different case studies. So I think it's a great way for brands, as you said earlier, to have some eye-catching designs and get consumers' attention instantly.
No, that's great. And also that kind of nicely leads into a question that I was looking forward to asking. That's kind of the state of play with digital printing. I know obviously high volume, it looks uncertain whether the digital print sphere will certainly replace offset in terms of kind of those large high volume orders. But does this kind of nicely tie into kind of the whole digital print trend and being able to kind of capture a different we're around Thanksgiving now, for instance, in the US, and having a campaign around Thanksgiving, and you're right, when there's like a particular NFL game or Super Bowl or football match or the World Cup, where you can create a marketing campaign that is of interest for a short space of time. And I'm guessing that kind of for ball bridges the gap nicely between digital print and offset. The fact that you can you can kind of personalize the can without having to go towards the digital print market, where obviously the costs increase as a result, and for the high volume is not something that your customers necessarily want to entertain. So sorry, there's a kind of a few questions there to unpack, but hopefully you get the premise there, which is I'm kind of intrigued at where Ball see the digital print versus offset, and obviously the ability to personalize.
I think digital printing has been a great addition to our industry. I've seen some great designs, and it's for me, it's the beverage can, and it being showcased in a different way is great to see. So I think, as you said, it's great for the shorter runs and the medium-sized runs. It offers flexibility and faster turnaround times, etc. So I think it's a great thing for our industry. However, offset still remains the preferred choice for the high quality and large scale production. And also its cost effectiveness. So you've just got to find the balance, what is right for your brand and what you're trying to do with the brand. I think it's a great complementary service that we've got within our industry, and it can only, again, enhance the role of the can. In events, etc., where you mentioned the Super Bowl, we have our aluminium cups business, where we've actually done some event work with that, where we've used our aluminium cups in the stadiums. And again, they have been done using standard offset printing, but again, shorter runs, because our cups business is able to sort of manage that. So I think, Alex, I think it's a great addition. It allows the industry to serve a broader range of market needs. And I think they both work together in tandem.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the case when I went to a recent launch of a company within the industry in the digital print sector. And they said that, the message needs to go away from it's one or the other, and they can actually, complement each other. But at the moment, it seems to be a case of, digital print's going to replace offset, but the cost is substantial, and it's a non-runner in that regard, really. And I think we need to kind of rephrase that message that is, it's not one or the other. But I think there's some work to be done there in the communication sphere in that regard. But just want to kind of finish things off, and we talked about kind of different trends and challenges, etc., within the industry, and one particular pertinent topic at the moment is obviously women in the metal packaging industry, and it's very much, as you're sure you're well aware, it's a very male dominated environment. Certainly over the age of 50, a lot of you only have to look at the shows, and it's the demographic is very much dominated towards sort of male within the sector. So as a woman, a senior woman within the business, have you felt that coming from other industries, or do you just think that's kind of reflected in business in general? And what could the industry do to obviously promote women more? And just your take on things, having worked in a lot of different sectors. Kind of curious, because we can sometimes look at these issues in a bit of a goldfish bowl, really, when a lot of people have worked in this industry for a long time. So just curious about how it shapes up compared to other industries on this subject.
That's a great question. It's interesting. I've thought about this quite a lot recently, and I think there's a perception thing. So I came from the sexy FMCG industry into packaging, and there was some doubts from some of my colleagues at the time that would you really fit in? And my first thing is the skills are completely transferable. I firstly speak as a female with commercial backgrounds. My background actually is marketing, and then I went into insights and shopper behavior, and then I went into full-on negotiation commercial. Those attributes which I picked up from being in FMCG are absolutely transferable into the packaging industry. So I think my first sort of principle is don't shoehorn yourself into one industry. You've got one life. Go into other industries, and you'll see, that there's so many opportunities. And I think there's a huge amount of opportunity in the packaging industries. And as I just said, we're privileged to see so many different brands, work with so many different customers. It's such a broad industry. So I think there's something we need to do, Alex, around that, in terms of it's an industry that you can, have a full-fledged career in. And does that then reflect in terms of the role of women? There is probably more women in commercial, in FMCG, CPG, from my experience. But I do actually think in Ball, there is a lot of women in commercial. There's this one point where we were going in to see customers, Alex, and there was myself, my line manager was female, and her respective line manager was female. So we had 3 females, usually in boardrooms where there's 3 men. So I think Ball is actually doing really well in terms of the commercial side. We recently were at an event where we were talking about the role of women, and I actually did see more women at this event versus a year ago. So I do think it's getting more attention. There is more women coming into it, but I think there needs to be a lot more communication from individuals. And I thank you, Alex, for inviting me onto the podcast, where we actually need to promote that. It's great. It's got all the elements. If you're not quite into STEM subjects, packaging will bring you into STEM in a very nice, gentle way, without making it too overwhelming. You've got commercial, you've got graphics, you've got engineering. There is a whole vast array of technical skills that you can learn or become part of without it becoming overwhelming, because working in the packaging industry, I think, brings you a lot closer to the actual product, because you're having to manage so many different elements, from logistics, from the wonderful things like the Advanced Pro, Dynamark, to customer management. It's really broad based. So if there's anything we can do, or I can do, Alex, to promote that, and if any women out there are in other industries or would like to reach out, link in with me, I'd be more than happy to have a discussion with you. But it is a great area, and yes, in manufacturing we need more women, but I think we are making good progress.
No, that's good. Good to hear that some improvements have been made. And I think you're right. I think this kind of needs to be separated into kind of two subjects here. It's not just about kind of women within the sector. It's also about kind of manufacturing per se. And I had an interesting conversation recently with someone kind of senior in the engineering sector, and they said actually kind of STEM jobs and getting women into engineering and manufacturing actually it's always been targeted at going into universities and colleges and apprenticeships, but by that point it's too late. People have made a decision what they want to do, so it's getting into schools at an early age and educating them that actually this is a real career opportunity and prospect, and it's actually an interesting industry. And sometimes young people can pigeonhole this industry as not an attractive space. It's not gaming, it's not tech, and it's not social media, so it doesn't seem as an attractive place to be for young people. So I think it's kind of rephrasing things that actually this is a really interesting area to be in, and I'm guessing that kind of works for targeting women in the sector as well, and not just young people. So I think there's kind of from my take, there's kind of 2 areas. So it's good to hear that we're doing well in the industry's improving, but obviously there's more work to be done.
Absolutely. And I think, that you can always change, right? We can always make decisions about careers, and don't forget about the skill set and the technical side. You can always switch industries. I was fearful when I switched from FMCG into packaging, thinking I don't know anything about any of this. And, through the dedication and commitment of, wonderful people at Ball and the industry wider, I'm 6 years in, Alex, and that's pretty amazing. So may I take this opportunity to thank everyone that's welcomed me into the industry.
That's excellent stuff. And you mentioned transferable skills, and 100% you can, if you're skillful in one industry, you can be skillful in another. And I think this is this is probably a conversation for a whole podcast, but I think this is probably a subject matter that the industry needs to address, because for many years they've had people that long service records. Oh, someone's been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years, same job. My dad, for instance, only ever had 2 jobs in his working life, but young people now move jobs every 2, 3, 4 years. So it sounds like good work is being done, because it shows that, people can have a great career and you can sidestep, and you're not just once you're in one industry, you're not pigeonholed, which is great. But for this industry, it's just very traditional. That brings some challenges as a result, because when those people retire, that knowledge risk being lost, and particularly if people then move on every few years, and then when they're trained and they take that knowledge with them, it does prove to be a bit of a challenge. So that's my take on things. But just to finish things off, I'm just interested in your take on that. The transferable skills is obviously a positive, but do you think this industry potentially has a challenge with a lot of senior level people retiring in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think those skills are transferable across other industries. I think if you're specifically looking at the manufacturing side of it, and what we would say are traditional can making, we've opened 2 new sites at Ball, and we've been purposeful about what we're recruiting for. It's really around the attitude side and the skills side we can absolutely support on. But if you've got the right attitude, Ball will support you. We can teach you the skills of can making. We've got great can makers who can pass on those skills to new can makers. I think utilisation of apprenticeships and, your wider HR strategy has to be proactive. There are lots of individuals that love working in the manufacturing sector. I was at one of our catering shifts not long ago, and there was a majority of women on that shift, and younger women. So I think it's about how your HR strategy is set about, how proactive you are, how far you're looking into the future, and how high these things go on the priority list. We talked about a number of things today, but you've really got to think about what are the things that your organisation needs to address, and really bring them to the forefront and make sure they're reflected in what your teams are doing. So whether it's me in commercial and my decisions on how I recruit, to how my colleagues recruit in finance, to manufacturing, to logistics.
Excellent stuff. So I think we've covered a lot of good ground there. So I think we'll probably leave that there. But just any closing thoughts? I know we've covered a lot of ground there, and we've talked about obviously the good work the board have been doing and different trends that we're seeing. Obviously, look into the future. So, but it does sound like you're very optimistic for the future health of this industry, and not least for Ball Corporation. So that's probably a nice place to conclude. So ultimately, are you optimistic for the future health of the sector?
I'm absolutely optimistic, and anyone that's listening and you pick up any packaging, especially a can, aerosol product or a cup, appreciate everything that goes into that and all the messaging, and hopefully you'll get a very good beverage, refreshing beverage to drink, and please do enjoy that. And Alex, thank you for everything you also do for the metal packaging world. Really appreciate it, and wish you all the best.
Likewise. No, thanks very much for your time, and look forward to catching up with you soon. Thanks.